What's up, guys? The Amped Up Podcast, Thursday, August 31st, 2023. John Cena returns to WWE tomorrow night, and there's already possible heat on the dude. And it's not coming from where you think it would be coming from. We'll talk all about it in today's podcast. We also have the latest details in the AEW CM Punk situation and suspension. And these latest details, just like everything else in this story, is wild. This and so much more in today's Amped Up Podcast. The only thing left to do, give that like button an amplified elbow. Lock in your earbuds, grab your coffees, and let's get amplified. And we'll start with John Cena making his return to WWE this Friday on SmackDown. It's going to be one of those things where he returns 100 times over the next 5 years, right? We saw this with The Rock, Hulk Hogan, so many others, where they come back 1,000 times in a small time frame. This is the same thing. We do it with Roman Reigns currently. He's your champion. But Roman Reigns goes away for so many weeks that when he comes back, we call it a return every time. Roman Reigns returns to WWE. I'd hope so. He's got the championship. But John Cena's in that predicament now where every time he comes back, we're going to call it a return, even though we just saw him a couple of months ago, I believe. Money in the Bank, showed up, and he dropped Grayson Waller, I believe. So we just saw him, but it's a return. And then it was announced that he's going to show up every single week on SmackDown going forward for the next couple of months. Officially announced. We don't know if that's going to be on the TV product every week or some weeks just for the house. But John Cena announced every week going forward into the fall. That's through Fastlane's PPV, PL, what do you call it? Premium live event now, pay-per-view. That's through Fastlane. You got to believe he's going to be there for Saudi, collect that big $1 million paycheck. If you guys don't know, they get tens of millions of dollars for every show. And stars like John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, they get $1 million paychecks. Pretty big. So John Cena will most likely eat that up. And then you got to believe they're going to ink out a few extra weeks and get him to Survivor Series, right? Because it's a multi-man schmaz, more than likely. So he's not going to get hurt, more than likely. Production on whatever is... Hopefully, this whole union thing is worked out by then. They can start filming. No harm, no foul. He's going to be in there with 9 other dudes, right? 5-on-5, maybe a traditional Survivor Series match. So you got to believe this is all leading up to Survivor Series. Although, as of now, just the next 7 weeks after his return Friday. So, 2 full months of John Cena. Not to confuse you guys. 2 months, and it all starts Friday. Now, here's the deal. There's possible heat on John Cena. And I say possible, I'm going to set up the scenario. It's not from who you would think, the boys in the back, or even management. No, it's with the SAG-AFTRA union. If you guys don't know what's going on, there's a writer's strike right now. First and foremost, in the acting world, the whole entertainment industry, there's a SAG-AFTRA union. Used to be 2 different unions, by the way. SAG was their own entity. AFTRA was their own entity. Several years ago, they mixed it up together. They said, hey, let's make one just ultra amplified union, right? They formed together to form an ultra union beast, right? I mean, this would be VKM's, like, this would be the worst thing for him. Not just a union, but a beast of a union, an amplified union, SAG-AFTRA. And what happens is when one sector of the industry feels like they're not getting treated fairly or not being paid properly, things like that, the whole industry has to get behind them. In other words, if the actors think they deserve one thing, the writers, the directors, everybody has to get behind them. If the writers feel like they're not getting paid properly, right? They want better wages. Well, guess what? The actors, directors, everybody has to get behind them. You support. You're the union. And that's what they find themselves right now. Hollywood is finding themselves in a massive writer's strike, where all the writers want better pay. So even the writers that are like, I'm good, I just want to work, it doesn't matter. You better be on those lines, or at least supporting, because you will be ousted. That's how these unions work, guys, especially in the entertainment industry. If you cross that line, if you go against the picket lines, if you go against what the industry is working towards, oh, you are ousted from the industry. So that is a big reason why The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, you're more than likely not going to see him back in WWE until this thing is resolved. Now, some people don't care about seeing Roman and The Rock in the future. BC is not one of those. I want to see that. I have to see that. That is the only way you can put an exclamation point on the Bloodline storyline. Whenever it is over, the only way you can put an exclamation point on it and say it's truly done is to have The Rock and Roman. I don't care if there's a title on. I don't need a title. This is just like Jey Uso versus Roman. More than the title, that red tribal lei was on the line more than anything, right? That was more significant in that match. The tribal chief status. That's what you do with Rock and Roman. You don't even need a title. He can drop that to Cody or Ninja Tozawa for all I care. Okay, that probably shouldn't be happening, but you get my point. Drop it, go on to The Rock. But that match has to happen. It's just the Rock still obviously has one more really good feud and match in him. That's why he has not retired yet. He knows that, but he is getting older. But he's got one more big one left. There's only one way to go, and that's with Roman Reigns. Everything has been leading up to that. But this thing could go on weeks, months. It could go on a long time. I wouldn't say years. This would have to get resolved by then. Production has to start. I mean, there's too much money on the line. And what happens after several months is production is going to see we're losing a lot more by not just giving them their wages. So eventually something's going to budge here. But this could absolutely go a few more months. And if that's the case, that would greatly jeopardize anything that The Rock and Roman could do going forward. But The Rock is more than likely not going to show up anytime soon because he cannot cross that line. He is no longer looked at as a pro wrestler. He is Hollywood Dwayne Johnson. That's how everybody looks at him now. And he comes back to wrestling once every few years if it's good for him. You know, if he's feeling like he wants that rub, that pop again, you know, then Dwayne will show up in Brooklyn or Boston, maybe at a pay-per-view. But you're probably not going to see him anytime soon. He's not going to cross that line. Now you go to John Cena. John Cena has switched over a little bit more quietly, a little bit more slowly than Dwayne Johnson, but he has crossed over to the Hollywood side of things. He is now the actor. The voiceover guy. He's in the commercials. He's in the movies. He's making the cameos on the TV shows. He's doing all the voiceovers. He's Hollywood Cena now. But he's coming back. While everybody else is not collecting that paycheck because they're on those picket lines in Hollywood, in New York. Everybody is on those lines not making any income. But here's John Cena going back, and especially Saudi Arabia. When they ink that deal, it's probably already been inked. But when he collects that $1 million in the next, who knows what he's going to make over the next 8 appearances alone. Probably a cool $1.50 to $2 million easily. You add it all up, this guy could make $3 million by coming back to work for 2.5 months. $3 million while everybody else isn't even making a paycheck. John Cena gets to do that. Now, I'm already hearing that a lot of people are still frowning on that. They still say, yes, he's got the ties with WWE, but this is the time where he has to stand in solidarity with everybody else in this new line of work that he finds himself in. Now, some people are giving him that pass. This is WWE. This is still the heartbeat of this guy. It's WWE, then the rest of Hollywood. Whereas Dwayne Johnson, it's Hollywood, then WWE. So a lot of people are giving Cena that pass. But there's a lot of people that are going, no, absolutely. And then you're going to come back and do all these movies? Once we busted our ass, and once we fix all of this that's broken and needs to be fixed over here in Hollywood, after you do all of your entertainment over there in WWE, you collect your millions, then you're going to come back and work with all of us? There's going to be major heat. There's already people that are not happy with it. Trust me, I know. I've been in this industry for a while now. There's it's a tight-knit group. It's a tight-knit group, Hollywood and New York. And when they join forces like they did for this strike, it becomes even tighter. And they don't like people crossing that line. So there's already people not happy with Cena. But are they going to see how much WWE means to him? And that he was always going to find a way to come back no matter what he was doing. You know, John Cena, if there's anybody that deserves that pass, if you will, and I'll put that in quotes, in air quotes, if there's anybody that deserves that pass, it's Jonathan Cena. I mean, this dude lives, breathes, still, I believe, WWE. I truly do. And it sucks that he finds himself in a rock and a hard spot, right? It sucks that this is going on, and he knows damn well it is not a good look if he comes back to WWE. It's not good at all. But if anybody was going to do it, and people go, well, yeah, that's John Cena in WWE, you have to believe that was going to happen. If anybody can do it, or should be able to do it, it's John Cena. The thing that doesn't look good, obviously, is when they just announced several months of John Cena appearing. It's basically like a film schedule, right? Actually, it's nowhere. That's actually not fair. Anybody that knows a filming schedule means you film 5 to 6 days, 12 hours a day. That's bare minimum. Filming a production is no joke, man. It takes up a lot of time. And again, 12 hours is just the filming. Hair, makeup, wardrobe, it goes on and on. So saying that John Cena is showing up once a week is not like a filming schedule, but I mean, it's a schedule. Why everybody else is out of work, while everybody else is on the front lines, on the picket lines, this dude has a schedule now to make a lot of money and entertain and put his name up there in the big lights. Once they announced that he was going to do several months of WWE, I think that's when people were like, wait a second, this motherfucker just ran right the fuck back when times got tough over here. So guys, that's you're probably going to hear a little bit about that. You're already starting to hear a little bit, man. Former writer for WWE and a really good friend and writer for Dwayne Johnson still to this day, Brian Gerwitz, was recently talking about it too. He had a good take on it as well. He said, this was a quote from Brian, former WWE writer, really close with The Rock. I believe this is the same dude who recently said that The Rock cannot come back to WWE during this time. And this is a good friend of The Rock. I believe he still writes maybe the Young Rock, the new TV show. I think Brian was writing with him on that show. That's how tight they are. And Brian says there's no way he can come back. I mean, the look that would be for Dwayne, and he's already got a lot of heat, or had it, with the whole Vin Diesel, and there was other actors that think The Rock puts himself on a pedestal over everybody else. A lot of individuals said that about Dwayne Johnson. So there's already some heat on Dwayne. I don't think you want to cross the picket lines. But Brian says this about John Cena. My mindset is, if you're an actor or performer, typically doing TV and movies and that kind of thing, that it's not a great look to then go on to WWE and be performing while these strikes are going on. Everyone has their own mindset. If I know WWE, I'm thinking this deal with John Cena, especially if he's booked to wrestle overseas or wherever the superstar spectacle is, which is India, it most likely has been inked to paper a long time ago. So Brian is saying maybe this was all planned ahead of time. Now, a couple of dates like the India thing in Saudi Arabia, maybe I'll give you that. But to book him on every SmackDown for the next couple of months, I doubt very much was inked. I think they filled those dates in because production has stopped on everything. So I think Brian is maybe half right there. There was at least the talks, if not the deal was inked. I think the deal was going to get done to bring him. I don't know about India. I think he would have been filming for India, to be honest. Saudi Arabia, I don't think he's missing. That's a cool million. I think they were always going to have somehow John Cena show up to Saudi Arabia. But that's just an interesting take from somebody who kind of is in that industry. He's been on both sides, a writer for WWE and part of that union. So anyway, guys, just wanted to pass that along. John Cena returns this Friday, but it's not with a little bit of cloud of controversy. Because when he goes back to Hollywood, he might be looked at a little bit differently. I want to move on after a swig of coffee. We have to talk CM Punk, guys. I know. Trust me. If you're like, oh my goodness, this is exhausting to keep talking about that. If you think you're exhausted listening to it, I'm exhausted talking about it. But there's new layers to this story that not just comes out, but it's just outrageous. And unfortunately, we're not even shocked by it because it's Phil Brooks. By now, we just expect it. We expect that if it's a big AEW event and Phil Brooks is on it, he's going to overshadow it somehow, right? With backstage antics. It doesn't even matter if it's his fault or not. Philip Brooks will be the center of attention, the spotlight. And sure enough, this all-in event absolutely, massively, to an amplified level, was overshadowed. Still, to this day, that's all we're talking about. And all anybody seems to be interested about because the details are just so wild. So we're going to get on to the new CM Punk information that we have with AEW. It's pretty drastic, and it changes everything for AEW going forward. So let me get a big swig of coffee. I'll tell you guys what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to try not to go back to everything, or at least not in great detail. By now, you guys know the Jack Perry situation with Punk collision a few weeks ago. Perry wanted to use real glass. Punk said, absolutely not. They got into a little bit of a scuffle. Now, a lot of people, even BC, said, okay, yeah, you don't need real glass. So one of the boys told you just don't do it. It's iffy when the boys are telling you not to do something anyway, right? But okay, Phil Brooks just says no. Everybody said, well, whatever. We all kind of agreed Perry should not have done that. It should have been Tony Khan, though, right? Tony Khan should have been the guy to do that. He's the boss. You tell him no. So right there, I do have a problem with CM Punk, of all people, telling this dude no. Right now, Punk has so much heat from the majority of the locker room. I don't know if he's the guy to go around bossing others around and telling them what they should and shouldn't do. And if you're saying that Punk kind of runs Collision, BC, no, he doesn't. Still, the people that are working on that Collision show, a lot of them are just willing to work with Punk. They're not good buddies with Punk. He has a handful, and that's it. And then there's a second handful that are more acquaintance. After that, it's just people willing to work with him. There's only 3 locker room leaders, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, and Mox. To this day, that's what we hear in that locker room. And then there's 3 EVPs, Matt and Nick Jackson, and Kenny Omega. And then there's a head of talent relations, Christopher Daniels, and then the boss, Tony Khan. Those 8 people, if you told Jack Perry, you can't use real glass, and then had a little bit of a scuffle and an argument, I'd say, okay, sounds right. Locker room leader, EVP, head of talent relations, the boss. But when you tell me that one of the wrestlers told the head of talent relations to go home, and management had to tell head of talent relations, Christopher Daniels, to go home to keep peace, there's where the problem just became enormous. If it wasn't already, it became amplified. CM Punk is having the head of talent relations go home with talent like Ryan Nemeth, so you have to do ROA matches now on a Wednesday when you could have just filmed them on Saturday. You're telling one of your top stars, Hangman Page, to go film his vignette somewhere else. At that point now, it's off the rails. But then we find out new information. New information is that Jack Perry actually had the approval of Tony Khan and the company to use real glass. Apparently, it was not going to be used in a way where it was going to be dangerous. It was not going to be actually part of the spot. It was just for the optics, that's exactly what BC thought originally anyway. Unlike All In going through a windshield, this was going to be mostly for optics. So he got the approval. This is the latest report where he got the approval. Either it was directly from Tony Khan or powers that be, but he got the approval. Punk, last minute, vetoed. Now, it doesn't matter, right? You can say, well, BC, I still agree with Punk. Real glass should not be used. That's not even the point. BC will actually agree with that to a point. The problem is, the bosses said yes, and one of the boys, and not just any, CM Punk said, no, you're not. Not on my show. Your show? I could see if this guy was pulling 750, 800 every single week in the ratings. And I'm being generous. I don't care if it's a Saturday night. I don't care your competition. You're CM Punk. You were brought in to pull in a massive rating. To be screwing around with 400,000 or 500,000 viewers every week. And that's before real competition starts, like college football and WWE pay-per-views, and a good preliminary night for UFC. What are you going to do when you hit the trifecta? Are you going to pull in 300,000 viewers on a Saturday night? And some people are going to say, well, that's still good. It's a Saturday night slot. It's better than what they would have had on there, BC. Okay, they're going to save a lot more money if they don't have that show on there and put in a Blue Bloods or an SUV. You know why? There's production cost every week. On top of the deal that the network already has with the company like an AEW or WWE, every week you have to also give them a production fee. That's going to cover pyro or any XYZ expenses that need to be covered. That's part of the deal. Now, you can save all that money, still get the same advertisers, maybe even more, that don't want to work with pro wrestling by putting them in there with SUV or Blue Bloods. You'll lose 100 to 150,000 viewers probably because it's a Blue Bloods rerun. But you're going to be not only making just the same, if not more money, you're going to save money. Hope that makes sense. That's how the business works. So saying that it just brings in some more viewers than they originally had in the time slot, that's not how television works. What is it costing you? What are you bringing in from the ad revenue? If this dude's only going to help bring in 300,000 to 400,000 when competition gets really stiff, and he's causing this much drama, that's why people are saying, are the negatives far outweighing the positives? They've been for months. Of course they are. Those negatives are mounting up. It's about to compete with Mount Everest with how tall this thing is getting negative-wise. So this dude says, apparently, no, you're not using real. I'm vetoing what you've been told. Because Punk, I've told you, he already thinks of himself as the boss of Tony Khan. The way he talks to him, the way he acts around him, he already knows he can get away with anything. So he vetoes that. Of course, Jack Perry's pissed off. Jack Perry, now this is the latest report, guys. Latest report is Jack Perry thought, okay, it's because I'm somewhat friends with the Young Bucks, and he felt he was being punished for that. Like, just because I'm a social, I'm willing to show up on Collision and work with you. Just because I'm friends with the Young Bucks doesn't mean I'm going to treat you any different or make you look bad. But he thinks because he's friends with the Bucks, Punk went out of his way to veto his approval and just make him look bad. Put a damper on his party the way that he wanted to go out on vacation or wherever Jack Perry was about to go. So, right there, vetoing that made Jack Perry even more pissed off. Of course, this most likely got back to the rest of the locker room, and they're like, whoa, wait, what? Punk did what? So then you fast forward now to All In, all right? Now, this is where it gets even more wild than you could have imagined. Now, first and foremost, we're hearing that travel. Most of the roster couldn't even get to the stadium. There was no transportation from the airport to get to the hotels anyway. No transportation. So the dudes that came from WWE, which this was all taken care of in the past, right? Those dudes are like, what am I working with here? What is this, some rinky-dink bingo hall organization? You don't have travel arrangements So literally, guys, wrestlers were like on their phones. They're trying to get Ubers. They're trying to find out train schedules, buses. The pro wrestlers were they're trying to mingle out of fan pockets, which is like fans trying to get on. They're trying to get transport. They look like idiots. Apparently, Punk was one of those people. Latest reports say that Punk tried to get in touch with the office. Now, some conflicting reports. Some say that he was able to reach the office, but did not get the desired results he wanted. Apparently, transportation was going to take a long time for them to reach him at the airport. So he said, F it, and he just went on to the train, guys. CM Punk had to take the train to the hotel. So, and then there's other reports that say he couldn't even get in touch with the front office. Is there a front office in AEW? Who knows? You call the number, it's probably fucking Tony Khan. Tony Khan's taking all the ticket sales. Tony Khan's doing the fucking front office. There's an old funny story that Paul Heyman always tells, man. Or no, actually, it's the boys. Taz, Bully, all of them tell the story where the wrestlers were always the front office. So if you called to get tickets to ECW, you were talking like Bully or Taz. They were doing the tickets. If you called for merchandise, so you were buying merchandise, like fucking Taz and Tommy Dreamer were like pocketing up, Sabu, fucking Sandman, they were packing up your t-shirts and sending it over to you. It was, Paul Heyman is taking care of, they were their own front office. Just a funny story. Anyway, who knows if there's a front office in AEW, but CM Punk had to take the train over to his hotel. So my point is that by the time everybody got to the stadium, these are actual reports, guys. This isn't just BC telling you a great story. These are reports. They're out there. So they get to the stadium, and a bunch of wrestlers are just pissed off. They're just not happy. They're like, wow, we just went through hoops and obstacles just to get here. And I'm sure it was a circus once they got there. I doubt very much Tony Khan had everything ironed out for the night of action. So it was just a mess. That's how it's being described. So, of course, if you guys know anything about Philip CM Punk Brooks, and this is not even shade, it's realistic, right? Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I'm a huge Green Bay Packers fan. Aaron Rodgers was our dog for 15, 16, 18 years, I believe, right? Even though he's a Jet, still will support that dude. But I'll be the first to say Aaron Rodgers is a diva. He is a diva. That's just how Aaron Rodgers is. Now, if you guys know Phillip Brooks, diva. Always needs to be causing some type of... Always needs to be the center of attention. Always has to have the spotlight on him. Cannot have anybody else take it from him. That's just Phillip Brooks. So he gets to the area. He's already... And if you piss these type of people, oh man, you're going to hear him all, yap, like a fucking chihuahua. So he gets to the stadium... And multiple reports say that he was chewing, that's a quote too, chewing out Tony Khan, like throughout the day. Just fucking screaming at this dude in front of people, letting everybody know he doesn't care. This is Punk's show now. So Tony Khan is just being fucking degraded, apparently. So then we go to Jack Perry, okay? So now he's already pissed off. CM Punk is pissed off from the whole travel shit. Apparently, he was saying, and I quote, I hate this place throughout the day. I hate this place, meaning I hate AEW. Well, obviously, people are shocked by that, but he said that in the Brawl Out scrum many months ago. He said, I'm older, I'm injured, I'm miserable, I'm pissed. I'm miserable was his exact quote. Well, he's telling you, he's miserable there. He's not getting along with anybody. Nobody there fucking gets along with him. A handful of people, that's it. And that's you're not going to be happy if you're showing up to work and everybody doesn't like you. Or you don't like everybody else. It's probably not going to be a fun day at work. Or if you got to go and have a meeting to try to mend fences with the majority of your coworkers, it's probably not a good situation that you're in. So it's not shocking that he hates that place. I know for a fact Phillip Brooks was never a guy who was a good fit for AEW. It's just a bad fit. CM Punk, whether you want to hear it or not, he's WWE material. Just like I say about Jim Ross. If you think for 1 second Jim Ross wouldn't jump at the speed of lightning to get back to WWE, he would in a heartbeat. He doesn't get AEW. You hear him on commentary 99.99% of the time like a Clorox wipe. Jim Ross doesn't give a shit what's happening in that ring. Can barely announce the wrestlers' names. He doesn't care about all the flips and the dives. He's more WWE. Chris Jericho has thrived in AEW, but don't get it twisted. He's a WWE guy. He knows it. That's why he will always compare WWE. He talks about the war, even though there isn't one with WWE. He's the first to talk about ratings and the demo god. He's the first to say All In is better than WrestleMania. He always is thinking WWE. These guys are just WWEers, guys. They just are. Whereas somebody like Mox, nope. He's fit for AEW. Mox can do without WWE. He doesn't always think about WWE. You're not going to hear him talk about WWE. He doesn't give a shit. There's just certain types of people. CM Punk, the drama, everything. He's got to be the spectacle and the spotlight. He was made for WWE. Cody Rhodes will tell you. He'll be the first to tell you. He fits perfectly, like the last puzzle piece that's needed to complete the puzzle. Cody Rhodes fits in WWE. He just, even though he built AEW, he helped to build that son of a bitch. But he's WWE. Some dudes are just built for a certain structure. Even though Punk was not happy in WWE toward the end there, even though Punk got done dirty on his wedding day, we all know the stories. Punk was the first person to tell you before he signed with AEW. Do you guys remember? He said, of course, if Paul Levesque McMahon calls, why would I not answer? He said, of course I would take whatever deal's on the table. I'd be stupid not to hear out the deal. He told you he was willing to go back to WWE. So there's some people that go, no, the way he was done so dirty, he would never go back there, BC. No, he told you he would. It's just they didn't call. And AEW did come running with a lot of money for a limited amount of dates. And the second he was there, he knew he could run that company. And that's what's happening. And that's why he can show up and chew out Tony Khan. And it didn't help Khan. Remember, guys, even before Brawl Out, I think it was the presser before, the media scrum, at the pay-per-view before the Brawl Out one, where Tony Khan just went on a profanity tirade. And he was just dropping F-bombs and defending CM Punk in the ratings. And Punk was looking at Tony Khan like he was absolutely nuts. Like, I went from a structured place with Vince McMahon, as much as he probably can't stand him, but he was structured. And now he's looking at his boss flipping out, dropping F-bombs, about to lose a gasket. And what happened at the very next pay-per-view media scrum? Punk did the same thing. He learned that if my boss can do that, dude, I can own this shit. And he said in that media scrum, I'm trying to run a business here, and you got people that can't even manage a target, disrupting it. People that can't even manage a target. Well, those are EVPs, and what do you mean you're trying to run the business? Is it Tony's business? But it told you right there what Punk was trying. He was positioning himself to be the guy. And he doesn't give a shit, because if he gets fired, he gets a shit ton of money. It's what Hulk Hogan tried to do with WCW. He positioned himself when WCW was going down. It was like that Titanic, it hit the iceberg. Hulk Hogan saw the writing on the wall, and he cashed out. He did everything to try to get fired. He tried to find loopholes, and Eric Bischoff says he got well into the 7 figures when he cashed out. Punk doesn't give a fuck. Punk doesn't like that place. Punk knows that he's got a shit ton of money on the table. If he can get fired, even better. That's not shade, guys. That's the deal. That's the real deal here. If Punk goes away, he doesn't just go away without cash. He cashes in. So now you have a pissed off CM Punk because of the travel arrangements. Jack Perry goes out there during the pre-show, the kickoff, 0 hour. He has this match where he uses real glass, looks at the camera, says, "Ooh, real glass." Now Punk is pissed off even more. If he wasn't pissed off at Tony Khan for the damn glass, or the travel arrangements, now he's even more pissed off because of the real glass comment. So Perry gets to the back. Punk says, "You got a problem with me." Now, this is from multiple reports. They start to scuffle. Now, this is where it kind of gets muddy, but a lot of people, everybody there admits, yes, there was a battle. Yes, it got physical. Tony Khan at the media scrum admitted and confirmed, and that's saying something because this guy never answers a question straight when it has to do with the backstage drama. But he said, yes, There was an altercation. Yes, it is being investigated. He admitted that. Less than 2 days later, we find out, indeed, there has been suspensions. Jack Perry suspended. Phillips, CM Punk, Brooks suspended. Yet again. Now, this is going into Chicago, obviously, right? You got Chicago's all-out pay-per-view this Sunday with no CM Punk, unless Tony Khan goes back on his word, brings in Punk for that show, and then says you're suspended. And if that's the case, then Punk has all the leverage in the world. It sucks that this is the timing of it, because I'm hearing it was supposed to be Ricky Starks versus CM Punk at All Out. And of course, now you might not even get CM Punk at All Out. But if this is true and this altercation happened, at some point Khan has to put both feet down and be the boss that he is, or supposed to be. And he has to levy these suspensions now. Otherwise, this will go to another stratosphere. Because once again, this backstage altercation overshadowed another big moment for AEW. And this was their biggest, because it's their biggest event, All In. And nobody is talking about MJF and Adam Cole. Nobody. Nobody is talking about Jericho and Ospreay. Guys, all the headlines from All In is CM Punk in the backstage altercation. Does that sound familiar? It happens every single big event for AEW that Punk is a part of. And you ask yourself, are the positives outweighing the negatives? Of course not. What is Punk doing for the company? He's bringing in 400,000 to 500,000 viewers on a Saturday night without stiff competition yet. So the numbers are nowhere near what you couldn't get if you just give proper storytelling to other people. You'd still get 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 viewers. And on top of that, he's the first match of a pay-per-view like All In. He's getting all of the money that you're paying him, millions of dollars. All of this drama and toxicity in the locker room. And he's the first match against Samoa Joe. You could easily have removed that match and nobody would have cared. Nobody would have even blinked an eyelash if CM Punk and Samoa Joe was not on the card. The first match of the night. Nowhere near the main event. And he's worth all of that drama? And then you have people that go, well, BC, he didn't instigate this, though, man. He didn't instigate. Other people are fucking with him. BC. No, it's all Punk, though. There's a common denominator. He didn't have to go. If Perry is friends with the Bucks, why go and veto something he already had approved? It's almost like you're poking. Why poke the bear if the bear's just going to eat you? So that's what he always does. That's what he does everywhere he goes, though. At some point, even if you're the biggest Phil Brooks fan, at some point you got to admit he's the common denominator and it's a problem, right? And something has to be done. You can blame the Elite all you want. Maybe you're right. You can blame Jack Perry all you want. Maybe you're right. You can blame Hangman Page all you want. Maybe you're right. You can blame 90% of that locker room. Maybe you're right. There's a problem. And the common denominator is Phillip Brooks. At some point, you got to say he's also the problem. And he's always part of the problem. At some point, you just got to say this is not fitting. This doesn't work. Some marriages, unfortunately, end in divorce. It's okay. It sucks. You wish you didn't get married in the first place. Everybody else that went to your wedding wishes they didn't spend all that money on the present or giving you cash for your honeymoon. They wish that they didn't have to give you those, right? Everybody wishes that the fans wish they didn't invest all that time with CM Punk and AEW because it ended in divorce. But it happens. Some marriages have to end in divorce. This is just not working, man. And for those that think, oh, it's still a work, right? They're holding out hope that this is all a work. You worked yourself then if that's the case. And that's the worst work in wrestling history. Because you just made your whole company look foolish, amateur. You ruined Hangman Page. Calling out Hangman Page left and right. And Hangman Page never even says a damn word because the company says, no, please just don't add fuel to the fire. So Hangman just kind of hangs low, but he loses his momentum in the process. Coming out of All In, Jack Perry backstage incident is your biggest headline over your champion, over your women's championship, over the trio, over everything. It's a Jack Perry CM Punk backstage brawl. Again, if you truly think this is a work, wow, thank goodness you're not writing for pro wrestling. Because this would be the worst work ever. It's not. This is just real, unfortunately. And Tony Khan has not gotten a grasp on it. If there's true suspensions levied, great. If you think that this is going to get better when the suspensions are over, no, Punk will still be miserable, and he'll be even more pissed off. So the latest we're hearing is that the suspensions are absolutely in play, and that as of now, Punk will not be in Chicago. Does Tony Khan stay with that? Is it the worst timing? No question. But it's a move that has to be made. If this altercation did go down, which multiple people are saying absolutely they were there. There's even reports that Brody King was pissed off. He was there. Miro and Punk apparently had an altercation, but some are saying that it was just fun. They were just mocking the earlier altercation. But then people like Alvarez are saying, no, they're hearing from people this was very real. So Miro went on his social doohickey machine and said that the stories were false or something with the Jack Perry shit. It's almost like Miro was trying to get ahead of something, a story that was gonna break, and then sure enough, we heard Miro and Punk got into something. But that's what I mean. Every bit of this is overshadowing All In. And that's the saddest part. And this is gonna keep happening. I told you guys this was gonna keep happening at the Brawl Out media scrum after that. I told you guys there's only one way that this goes. It's gonna keep happening, obviously. You know, a situation like that, it doesn't just get better magically. If the train is off the tracks, it's going off the rails even more. Unless something is done to put that back on that track, especially if we hear that he's chewing out Tony Khan left and right, and he's always just yelling at this dude, and Tony Khan, his boss, just takes it. And I'm not even saying that every situation is Phillip Brooks' fault, by the way. I think that's where people are just, they're not understanding. They just want to put blame somewhere else. Well, it's not Punk, BC. You got to look over here, man. It starts with these people. It doesn't matter anymore. It's done. I'll give you an example. BC was that dude, man. When I did 9 to 5 work, right? And I would show up to a shift, I would always go in with my coffee. Everybody knew, don't even talk to me. Don't even say a word until that coffee is done. The first 15 minutes of my shift, I did nothing but assess the situation. Look at the area that I'm going to be working in for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. Did everybody do their job in the shift before me? Did everybody do it properly, the right way? Is everything neat for me to start my shift? This is what I did, and I tell you guys all the time, I'm not one of those people that shows up to a 9 to 5 job and just watches the clock and just wants to get out of there real quick. I always just busted my ass. I worked to the most amplified of measurements to the point where I'd be 10, 15, 20 minutes past my shift before I even looked at the clock and said, oh, I got to get out of here. It's time to punch out. That's just how I worked. If I'm going to show up, no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to be amplified. I'm going to be better than everybody else. I'm going to whoop ass. And that's what I did. So for the first, and everybody knew that too. Everybody would go, oh no, BC's here. Oh boy, you know, because most people are not that way. I understand. They don't want to do all the work. They don't want to do all the work for what they're getting paid, right? So they're just like, oh, I'm going to watch the clock every hour, 10 times an hour, try to get out of here as fast as possible. No, and then they see BC coming in with a coffee and the delts are popping out and I'm fucking walking like Stone Cold going to a ring at WrestleMania. I'm ready to whoop ass. So, you know, I could tell a lot of my coworkers, oh no, here comes BC, man. Oh boy, did we do everything right? Oh, let's just run now, man, so he can't yell at us. Because sure enough, there'd be a lot of shit that was just not done correctly. A lot of shit was messy. The shift just did not work properly, not to my expectations. But I wasn't a boss. Not by a landslide. But I found myself yelling at these motherfuckers more than anybody. I was the most pissed off. They ran from me more than they ran from the actual boss. And then I would go to the boss, and I'd chew the motherfucker out. Multiple bosses. I would yell, I would rant, I would take them across the section, show them this is not fucking right. This is not what you do. This needs to be changed. This motherfucker should be out of here. I would flip the fuck out. And I was so amped, they didn't know what, they didn't want any fucking confrontation. They were just like, you got it, BC, and whatever I said, it pretty much went. Inadvertently, I became the boss. But I was becoming, you think that you'd be good. Oh, good job, man. Wow, you had that type of pull. Yeah, I did have that type of pull, but something happened. I became miserable every time I would show up. Miserable, because as much as I had that pull, shit still wasn't getting accomplished. It got used to a rhythm. The rhythm was they all do stupid shit, don't do actual work. I come in, I yell at everybody. The boss gets chewed out, says he's going to fix shit, and it's a fucking vicious circle. We get used to it. Or something changes a little bit for a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then it's right back into the norm, right? Why? Because you didn't have a proper leadership. The people above me were yahoos. And when they're yahoos, it's a trickle-down effect. To where people like me can actually become the boss. And I'm not even. I don't have to do anything. I just have to be more of the boss than the boss. And that became the new normal. To the point where I became so fucking pissed off. I was yelling so fucking much. I was chewing the boss out so much. Eventually, guys, the company, it hits a wall in the company. And the company's like, whoa, this dude's a liability now. So what happened? Eventually, you cut ties. It doesn't matter how. You cut ties. You can't, it's not working for anybody. And you have to end in a divorce. And you become much happier when you're gone away from that place. It's the same thing, man. And that's what I mean when I say, like, I'm not putting blame on anybody. I get it. Phillip Brooks found himself in a position where he can become more the boss than the boss. He can yell at the boss. He can do all, he's got pull somehow. The problem is you can only take that so far. It's a vicious cycle, and eventually it ends one way. You're going to have to part ways. It doesn't get better. It does not. Unfortunately, it doesn't get better. And the more pull he gets, the more full of himself he is going to get, because he truly is going to look at himself like I'm the boss. Like when I yell, oh, here comes... You start to know that, You see how they're looking. Oh, here comes BC. And BC knows. Yeah, you're damn right I'm coming to whoop that fucking ass. It's like that AEW, man. Tony Khan sees CM Punk come. Oh, no. Vince McMahon. It happened, guys, with Shawn Michaels. You guys don't even realize. Shawn Michaels, man. The way he would talk to Vince McMahon, you wouldn't talk to your fucking parents like that. He would absolutely degrade and berate Vince McMahon. And Vince, something happened where Vince gave him enough pull to where it crossed the line. He can't really punish him now. Can't really fire him because he let him get away with so much for so long that it was a different dynamic. Shawn Michaels was basically running his own shit. Shawn Michaels was miserable showing up to work. Shawn Michaels was pissed off. Shawn Michaels had a problem with everybody. How is Shawn Michaels still in this company? Mark Calloway always asked that. Mick Foley. So many people. How does this guy still have a job? But man, he had something over Vincent Kennedy. It happens. And when you get that much power and pull, you get carried away. But it doesn't stop you from being miserable. Because the problems that made you miserable are still there. You just get to fucking flip out about it. You get people fucking scared of you from it. But nothing truly changes. Hope you guys understand, man. This is the situation that AEW finds itself in. They're just gonna have to part ways. I don't see anybody that's going, wow, this CM Punk shit is really working. Guys, he has been there for over a year. What is it, 2 years yet? Maybe just over, I don't even know how long. He's been there long enough. Many pay-per-views, many months. And I can't tell you anything this guy's done other than the backstage drama. When I think CM Punk AEW, the only things I think of is Brawl Out, the media scrum, Catastrophe, and now all of this all-in Catastrophe. I can't tell you matches that are memorable with him. I can't tell you if he was ever in there with an Omega and Hangman and MJF. I can't even tell you. A Kingston. I think of some of these names. I remember they were in there at least for promos. I can't tell you anything this dude's done. And there's people that go, oh no, this run has been amazing. CM Punk, AEW needs CM Punk, is what I was hearing before he came to Collision. They need CM Punk? They need 400,000 ratings on a Saturday night without stiff competition yet? They need CM Punk to be the first match on a pay-per-view like All In against Samoa Joe? That's the best you got for Punk, and that's the best he can offer? You need CM Punk to cause this much fucking drama and tear up the locker room? Where's the need? Or do you need really good storylines? Do you need to put the focus and the spotlight on the individuals that are up and coming in AEW and not the drama that these vets are bringing in? Maybe those are the needs, but that's just how BC's looking at it. Now, before we take off, guys, I know that was a long conversation, but this is it seems like a never-ending story that just keeps getting layers to it. I will keep up on it, guys. We'll see if Tony Khan goes back on his suspension word, if he says the investigation has went through and we see that Brooks should be back for Sunday. You could hear something like that, because apparently it was so bad that another investigation is being done, guys. Literally, that's what Tony Khan said at the media scrum. So you had an investigation for the Brawl Out situation, and now another investigation just months after that one. Believe that shit. Anyway, guys, some big thank yous to some of my Amplified unit members on the last podcast we put up. I think that was just a couple of days ago. On that last podcast, WWE, AEW, Marvel fan, Channel Gold member with a 5-spot coffee. In that last podcast, I appreciate it, brother. It seems like every podcast I put up, WWE, AEW, Marvel fan chucks a coffee over at the channel. I appreciate it big time, man. It is never needed, always appreciated. Also to Big Nang with a 2-spot coffee. I did catch that as well. Big Nang, appreciate you, brother. Also, by the way, a Channel Gold Card member is Big Nang. And Angel Allega, longtime channel member, and, or should I say, channel subscriber, but also channel member from basically day one, I believe. Angel Allega, a Channel Gold Card member with a 25-spot, guys. A mini banger bomb on a regular uploaded podcast. Angel Allega chucked a bunch of coffees over at the channel. So, Angel Allega, I appreciate you, dude. The funny part about that is I was actually in a coffee line when that super thanks came up. So, the irony of that, Angel Allega. I appreciate you big time, brother. As I always been telling you guys, man, this whole week, any extra coffee cash that you guys have, see if anything is going on for Bray Wyatt's family, man. JoJo and the kids, make sure that they have no needs going forward, and make sure that Bray has no worries going forward from way up high. So, any contributions over to JoJo and the kids, man, for Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, that would be much appreciated. Yeah, so that's going to be that, guys. That's the podcast. Until next time, and there will absolutely be a next time, a big weekend coming up for WWE and AEW. You have Payback this Saturday night, head-to-head with Collision, and you also have All Out a day later, one night later, All Out. Their second pay-per-view in 1 week. I don't know how AEW is going to do that, and now you don't even have Punk in Chicago. All right. That'll do it for today's podcast. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top Guy, I'm out. BC, saying check you. Peace!